Yeah, why are we here? Universal consciousness wants to express itself through the heart process. So the heart process realizes the restriction, the limitations of our physical form and the capacity of our physical form to carry us into beyond 80 years to 900 to 1,000 years. We need to live longer. But if we realize our limitations, then universal consciousness is made available via our limitations, via the fact that we know that our limitations are our doorway to limitlessness. So if you see, even when I'm speaking to you, I know you're transforming into another state of consciousness when I say universal consciousness use the limitations, but the limitations are the doorway for us to gather the limitlessness of consciousness in terms of this creative being that's everywhere at once, yet nowhere at all. Three-dimensional reality doesn't matter. We can travel. We'll never, the universe will never end. But if we go into a state of neutrality, in terms of realizing that we're limited within our consciousness, then we'll realize that the limitations are not what we're meant to be concentrating on, even though the limitations are what we're bearing as a humanity. And once those limitations you see those limitations, then obviously you want everybody to be successful, you want everybody to be happy, but everybody has to transcend into universal consciousness to understand that how valuable the limitations is to realize universal consciousness.
Right.
And that can only be solved through movement, solved through traveling through our body and seeing that how limited we are is giving us the possibility of that limitlessness will be made available to us within our transition from life to death, and then from death to maybe a state of, or definitely a state of freedom, and then to not to be thrown back because we haven't been attentive towards our limitations and what do we need to do with our limitations and how we act upon those limitations. This is our karmic process. So if we realize that we've got to release ourselves from the karmic process or the entanglements of that limitation, then we look at humanity as a collective consciousness, which we need to do. Then we realize what we need to do in terms of the universal capacity to see that no matter what we do, it doesn't really matter, but no matter what we do, it does really matter. We can't have it doesn't matter. We have to say it matters. So through those limitations, you have to gravitate to through our limitations, we realize universal consciousness is the only viable option for us. And we have to travel through the limitations of our heart awareness in terms of how do we ascend beyond our heart awareness to a higher state of consciousness. It's through limitations of our heart awareness. And how do we traverse this? Through the limitations and the cruelty of our world. We have to come to terms with the fact that our world can change through open-heartedness, so that we can evolve on a three-dimensional perspective to see that enrichment will cause us to look for this universal possibility. It's like an impoverished person can't see how to look after the environment because of impoverishment. Impoverishment of consciousness is the same as someone being on the streets. They can't see their future because they've been limited. If we're limited, we must see that that limitation has to be given worth. The limitation has to be given worth. Not through greed, but through love. And this can only occur through the discernment of tracking our body through being, knowing, and not doing, and then not doing the things which we know are generally harmful for the collective consciousness. So we have to take responsibility for our own determination of what are we really doing here? What's the answer to why we're here? This is the answer. Why are we here? We just answered it. As far as I'm concerned, there's nothing more important than this.